Welcome back in Alive now. Some sad news to report as we're learning from the New York Times and Variety. Val Kilmer, who played Bruce Wayne in Batman Forever, channeled as Jim Morrison in Oliver Stone's The Doors, and starred in several other 1980s favorites, has died, the New York Times has confirmed, and Variety is also reporting. He was 65 years old. He had been battling throat cancer for several years, according to Variety.
He said he wants to talk to you, so I called him, and we were both in New York, and he said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm just, I'm going to do this thing in a couple of days." And he said, "What are you doing right now?" I said, "I'm just hanging out. I got a new child." And he said, "You want to get together?" I said, "Sure." And he said, "Okay, I'll be right over."
Val Kilmer's death sent shockwaves through the world, but what was uncovered afterward left everyone even more stunned. As Hollywood mourned the loss of an icon, a chilling discovery emerged. The truth hidden within Val Kilmer's autopsy report. What was revealed raised shocking questions about his final days. This is not the story you've been told. It's the untold truth buried beneath the tributes. What's inside that report will leave you speechless. On April 1st, 2025, the world lost Val Kilmer, the legendary actor known for his unforgettable roles in Top Gun, Batman Forever, and The Doors, at the age of 65. The cause of death? Pneumonia complications. Yet, as tributes flooded in, a sense of unease settled in the air. Something wasn't adding up. The real story was hidden beneath the surface. Hollywood's finest, including Michael Mann, Josh Brolin, and even the Top Gun account, poured out their grief. Kilmer's loss was felt by all, but behind the heartfelt messages, there were whispers. Had something been overlooked in his final months? Fans were familiar with Kilmer's long, hard battle with throat cancer. But when he appeared in Top Gun, Maverick, it felt like a final farewell. Many believed pneumonia had claimed his life, but behind closed doors, a different narrative began to unfold. Friends and family revealed they hadn't fully understood how bad things had gotten. In his final months, Kilmer withdrew from the world, ignoring calls, refusing visitors, and turning down help. What really happened during that time? Fans and those closest to him started asking the questions no one dared to ask. And soon, a much darker story began to surface. Why hadn't Kilmer been seen publicly for months? What about the rumors of hospitalizations that the media never reported? And why, despite pneumonia being the official cause of death, did it take so long for his autopsy report to be released? These questions were buried beneath an avalanche of tributes at first, but some journalists kept digging. Soon, whispers began circulating that the autopsy revealed a far more unsettling truth. Details started to emerge, suggesting that Kilmer's final chapter was far darker than anyone could have imagined. For now, the world mourned, celebrating his iconic roles. But beneath the collective sorrow, a shadow of unease lingered. While headlines focused on his death, the real story, hidden deep within his final medical report, remained a secret, waiting to be uncovered. When the truth finally emerged, it left everyone reeling. Before the tributes, before the questions surrounding his death, Val Kilmer was a force of nature in Hollywood. He had the power to captivate audiences and transform into any character. But behind his rise to fame were rumors, tensions, and mysteries that few knew about. Kilmer's journey from a Juilliard prodigy to a Hollywood superstar seemed destined, with his breakthrough role in Top Secret, 1984, followed by the worldwide sensation that was Top Gun, 1986. From there, his career took off with unforgettable performances as Jim Morrison in The Doors and Doc Holliday in Tombstone. However, as his star rose, so did the rumors. Kilmer became known for being demanding, unpredictable, and often combative. The set of The Island of Dr. Moreau became infamous for his on-set clashes, and director Joel Schumacher dubbed him the most challenging actor he'd ever worked with. Kilmer, however, defended himself, claiming he was a misunderstood perfectionist, just striving to get the role right. Despite the tensions, Kilmer's undeniable talent kept him in high demand. But by the early 2000s, his star began to fade. As whispers of his declining health began in 2014, Kilmer remained silent. His noticeable weight loss, raspy voice, and canceled appearances went unaddressed until 2017, when he revealed he had been secretly battling throat cancer. He underwent chemotherapy, radiation, and a tracheotomy that took his voice. But when he returned in Top Gun: Maverick, fans rallied behind him, celebrating his resilience. But Val Kilmer's life was never as simple as it seemed. While his career was defined by unforgettable roles, his personal life was cloaked in secrecy. His need for privacy extended far beyond his career and his illness. It followed him right to the very end. And what would ultimately shock the world wasn't just his death, but the private battle with cancer that he kept hidden for years. For much of his public life, Kilmer's image seemed flawless. Red carpets, blockbuster films, and that trademark smirk. But behind the bright lights and flashing cameras, Kilmer was silently fighting a war no one knew about. By the time the truth was revealed, it had already cost him more than anyone realized. The first hints of Kilmer's struggle appeared quietly around 2014. Fans noticed he seemed thinner, weaker, and his voice sounded rougher during public appearances. Kilmer's return to Top Gun: Maverick in 2022 was a moment fans had long been anticipating. Nearly 4 decades after his iconic role as Iceman, Kilmer was back. But there was something different this time. Something fragile beneath his familiar cool exterior. By then, the world knew about his health battle, but few understood the immense effort it took for Kilmer to return to the screen at all. His voice was almost gone, and filming was physically demanding. To make it work, the filmmakers used creative techniques, text messages, and AI-generated voice technology to give Iceman a voice once more. The scene was emotional, not just for the lines spoken, but because it was Kilmer's final performance. Fans celebrated the return, but behind the scenes, it became clear. This wasn't just a comeback, it was a farewell. After Maverick, Kilmer withdrew from the public eye. He spent his final years at home, surrounded by his children and close friends, focusing on art and writing. Fans saw his return to Iceman as a triumph, but the true message behind that final scene was missed. It wasn't about a comeback, it was about closure. As Kilmer's health rapidly deteriorated, he quietly retreated from the public spotlight. The fans who cheered his return were unaware that, behind the scenes, the end was already approaching. The real story of Kilmer's final chapter wouldn't be told on the screen. It would be revealed months later, in an autopsy report no one was prepared for. For decades, Val Kilmer lived in the spotlight, yet his personal life remained a mystery. His relationships were often as intense as his acting roles, but behind the headlines, Kilmer's love life was far from simple. It was turbulent, filled with passions, struggles, and a relentless need for privacy. In 1988, at the height of his career, Kilmer married actress Joanne Whalley, and they had 2 children, Mercedes in 1991 and Jack in 1995. But by 1996, their marriage quietly ended. Despite the separation, Kilmer remained close to his children, often calling them his greatest pride. His family became his emotional anchor through the many Hollywood ups and downs. Yet, Kilmer's personal life wasn't defined solely by his marriage. It was marked by a string of high-profile relationships with women like Cher, Cindy Crawford, and even Angelina Jolie. Despite the tabloid frenzy that followed, Kilmer rarely spoke about his romantic life. He valued his privacy more than anything else. Kilmer's final months were far more tragic than the public ever realized. Val Kilmer's final months revealed a hidden struggle far beyond what the public knew. The autopsy report exposed untreated infections, chronic surgical wounds, and significant physical neglect. Kilmer, battling cancer, had refused medical care despite clear signs of deterioration. High levels of prescription pain medication in his system suggested prolonged, unmanaged pain. But there were no signs of overdose or illegal substances. What shocked the world wasn't his death, but the extent of the suffering he had concealed. Kilmer had always protected his privacy, enduring torment alone, even from his loved ones. His silent battle questions the lengths we go to hide our pain, and it's this hidden suffering that will define his legacy for those who truly understand what he went through.